What up, you guys? We are here for our weekly energy oracle forecast. I hope you're doing well. While I was shuffling, ego card kind of peeked out, so we'll just take that into consideration. So yeah, little tea. I worked tonight on a private party at the restaurant I work at, and a woman threw up on the table and on the floor where she was sitting. It was a party of 28, and then she went to the bathroom for a while and she threw up all over the bathroom, the vanity, the sink, around the toilet, flooded the floor. I don't know if anyone was actually in the toilet, but she threw up everywhere. Made no attempt to clean it up, and then sat at the table at the party for the rest of the night. So that was that. And then the crew ended up going to get a drink, and we were just like, yeah, let's go out and have fun. Like, somebody's friends are in town, and there's like this great karaoke bar. It's a lesbian karaoke bar in my neighborhood called Lipstick Lounge, and it's a great dive bar. So we went there, and everybody in my group is like so talented. And so we had just like the best karaoke. And then we went to another little place that is in my neighborhood. And like, I have the greatest neighborhood if you like aren't an alcoholic, because I'm surrounded by like charming little like dives to go like run up the street and have a drink. It's like 5 minutes away. So it feels like you're in your own house. It's so great. So we went to Schulman's on the way home to grab a little nightcap, and then I came home, and it was fun. We all had a good time. It was like a little holiday party, unofficial, kind of work thing. Meaning like our actual official holiday party is pretty off the rails, but it usually happens after the holidays because we're serving people during the holidays. So let's get into our reading. So our first card out was Cycle, which is no surprise. This is the full moon of Gemini, and this is the last full moon of the year, which is interesting because it's the threshold of like the end of the year, as in the last full moon of the year, but it opens us up to kind of like the new cycle of 2026, which is going to usher in like the new timeline. So basically, if we take like a big picture, like projection out, we are wrapping up the old timeline in this year for like good. Next year, it's like we are blooming and emerging and becoming within the new timeline, like setting up the basics, getting our bearings where we are in our infancy. And then like the next year is going to be like where we feel like we're beginning to take our steps, where we can get our footing, where things are really going to show their difference. It's funny because what we feel is instant is in the 5D. It's like we instantly shift into that new reality on the inside. And it's so much faster than like what the 3D material world is like trying to catch up to create this reality in slow-mo. And like we start getting so impatient, and we're like, is this even right? Like, am I insane? Like, what's happening? And it's just taking the material world longer to try to like move and shift and catch up with us. And what was just given to me was the image of like the way that like soil erosion and soil enrichment happens, and like how minerals are built and fossils are created and like crystals form over time, right? It's not fast. Like the material earth world is not fast. It happens slowly. Like when you see like footage of flowers and plants and things and like really super high frame footage, and you slow it down into slow-mo, you can see that plants are actually animated and they're in movement and they're active, but it's just that they're so slow that we just don't perceive it. So very, very interesting. So this cycle is definitely shifting, even though it's not perceptible to us in our material experience. Like, our days feel like they're the same. You know, we feel like we might be trying to do our best to make our shifts and do things a little differently, but we might feel like we're generally seeing the same things in life. Things will be shifting soon. I watched, you know, it's funny, if you guys watch all the readings, on Tuesday we have our manifestation oracle message, and we had consult an expert, and I'm laughing because 2 reasons. One, because this is perfect, because shit, I lost my train of thought because I got distracted by the other thing about the consultant expert. Hold on, let me bring it back. We're in this new cycle. We're moving forward. Self and the new cycle came up. Like, what was I gonna say? Maybe if I tell the other story, it will help. But anyway, consultant expert. Oh, I found a new coach. And one thing that I was talking about in the video of when we were talking about the consultant expert card, I was like, be on the lookout for maybe a random new YouTube coach to be suggested to you, like in the suggestion bar or whatever, because they might have something that's like super helpful. And that actually happened. There's this dude named Alex Hamatsi or something like that, and he's like an entrepreneurial, like personal improvement, personal development business coach. And I like him, but like there are certain things about him that I'm just like, I can't take this guy seriously. But anyway, so like this woman pops up in my YouTube suggestions feed this week, and it was Layla Hamatsi, and she looks almost just like him. I'm like, I wonder if that's I wonder if she's his wife. Like, I wonder if they're like connected. And like the title of the video seemed relevant. It seemed like exactly what I needed to like listen in on. But there was something about her where I was just like, ugh, another one of these. Like, she kind of looks like just the nails, long, like curled, smooth, wavy hair, you know, either like really great brown or blonde hair. Like, she's a brunette, you know, like perfect like tan with like contoured, highlighted, like perfect makeup and all that. Like, you know, classic beauty pageant girl. So at first I started to dismiss her. So I was just like, I can't, like, I'm another one of these. Like, I just thought she was going to be like every one of the new people, like flooding and just like being another person. And actually she was like, I was like, no, I feel like she has value. I feel like she has real value. And I watched her video. It was so valuable. I'm like, oh my God, she is my new favorite person. I love her so much. Like, you just never know. But she was speaking to like very practical advice that was like, something about it was like so obvious. But you know how some people when you see the zeitgeist of coaches in these niches, they go so niche that sometimes they like miss speaking directly to like the main obvious like basics, right? So she's just like going into the main obvious basics. And for some reason though, it would just like hit so hard. Like, I was like, oh my God, so great. So finding an expert is going to maybe help you out of this cycle. The other expert thing that I was laughing about, now I forgot that. So we're gonna move on. It'll come back to me if it's important. I think I was just talking funny shit anyway, so it doesn't matter. So this new cycle that we are on, keep an eye out for maybe a new teacher or a new guide or a new coach that might like lead you in. I almost started to stop this because I was like, I've been rambling too much. But then I was like, no, we've had some helpful things. And Whenever I start to second guess my videos, I end up getting like a comment or like a message from someone that is like, the thing that you talked about that was the most random thing, the tangent you went off on, was exactly what I needed to hear. So, okay, I'm just going to trust. Having said that, this week is also like the whole end of this year has been all about like reflecting on the previous basically whole first half of our lives. Like if you can remember a time where there were VHS videotapes and sometimes there was a movie so long, like Anne of Green Gables or Anne of Avonlea or Braveheart, where you would have 2 videotapes for one movie. And at one point you would have to take the first tape out and then there would be the next tape to finish the movie. This is the image that has come up to me for like 2 years. But so it like is as if we have taken the first tape of life, us, the show, out of the VCR. And now there's been like a pause and we're putting in a new tape. So the first tape is complete. Also, another metaphor way to look at it is if life was a series, like a Netflix series, the first version of the series got canceled. Like, we're not talking about seasons. Like, I know, like, all over the world, some people refer to series as the season, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, this is like the metric system all over again. So, Life, the show, starring us, got canceled off Netflix. But the production and writing team were like, wait, it's all right. Doesn't matter. We're getting picked back up. All the actors, yay, we still have a job. We're getting picked back up. The thing is, though, the old writer's Bible for the show can get tossed out. We're burning it. The old storylines don't apply anymore. The old character motivations don't apply anymore. We don't have to go by the old story that we've already built, because when you are studying like sitcom writing or like series writing, there's a Bible for the show where you keep track of like the key points for each character and the main highlights of the story that are canonical to the inherent essence of the story and the character. Right? So when you have new writers coming on all the time, every other week or so, you know, there's not always the same group of writers on a show. Sometimes there's like new writers coming in and people are coming in and out. So you have to have this like uniform way of referencing what is going on, what drives the characters, what drives the story, what continues the continuity that makes sense for these people, what keeps us on the rails of the story and not completely off the rails. That Bible. So it's as if that story doesn't matter anymore. We've thrown out the old story and now it's like we have the same elements to work with, but we get to write a new story. And so that's what it's like jumping onto the new timeline. So we have a new cycle starting. We're reflecting on the old cycle and we're becoming like more in alignment and we're building affinity with the higher self by reflecting on our old cycle and what we experienced that brought us to this point and what we learned from that. And now we are moving into the next cycle, and this is like an awakening of self. So this next cycle, like, it involves our highest self. We have sacral chakra, which this is involving our creation and our creativity. It's tapping into the subconscious, right? We just talked about, or maybe I was going to say it out loud and I didn't, but it's almost like when we say the old story is over and the old doesn't apply, it's like wiping out the subconscious of the show. when you have the canonic, like the Bible of the script of a series, it's like the subconscious of the series, right? It's like the thing that all of the characters' preconceived notions and limiting beliefs, and these are the experiences the character has had. This is the effect this has had on the character. And so this is by proxy what the character is going to react like based on this past. It's so interesting to think of it that way, that when you dissect the character analysis or when you're writing the character, it's like the reverse work of self-help. It's going and rewind, because you are looking back and you're like looking at the character and you're like, okay, why would they do this? What's their motivation? The actors and writers are like, okay, well, what would the character do based on their subconscious, based on their early childhood? It's like the most active self-aware analysis when you think about it, because there's a group of people that are all considering, where did these characters come from? What was their upbringing? What were their early childhood experiences that would bring them to this certain situation and cause them to react? Well, I guess that's a great way for all of us to think about our own self-analysis. If you were, like, when you go back and reflect on your life, pretend you're a writer. Pretend you're writing a show and pretend the you that you're remembering is a character. And think about, if you were writing the script, what would possess you to do such a thing? When you look back on, and it will connect with you. Oh yeah, like my dad did this, or my mom did that, or I remember my older brother doing this at that time, or you would remember and combine things because you're not attached to anything. It's not your personal memory. There's no resistance, there's no fear, so it's so easy to make the connection. That's so genius. I mean, I hate to like toot my own horn, but I've never thought about it that way. Like when you reflect on your own life, like how to make the connections, because sometimes it's weird when you're like sitting there. I mean, I feel like this firsthand. Like when you're like, okay, like I get that I'm having this issue, and I understand that I have this tendency to have this fear, probably because of this stuff in my childhood. But it gives it so much more 3D life and context. I don't know, thinking of it that way. Like if you separate yourself out of the picture and you're thinking about it like in terms of like following a character's story arc, it's almost easier to feel empathy, because there's no survival method or survival mode taking over you to numb yourself to get through it. Interesting. I'll leave it at that for this card. Then our next card out was Power. So I really feel like the whole purpose of our trajectory into the next cycle is to really like fully start realizing our power and start honing it and wielding it in positive ways. And I think that like in our reflection of the last cycle, I think it helps us come into our own and come into that higher self and realize just the level of metamorphosis we've actually been through. Like even though we haven't been able to take the time to think about it and to really like let it set in. But yeah, the cycle card is all about like the fact that we're just like, we're wrapping up the old cycle. It's wrapped. Like we're done with it. The thing that we're doing right now is like going through the inventory, like thinking about what we've just come through. But like as far as being connected with that dimension, we can separate. We can jump to the next dimension of this reality where things are starting to manifest in a new way. And it's going to be subtle at first. And I feel like I'm already witnessing this, where I'm in like one leg is still in the old and one leg is in the new. It feels like there's a part of my life that's starting to get, I'm even scared to say easier, but like there's a certain part of my life that seems to be finding more momentum and harmony. And then there's another part of it, like the rest of it, that's just like still the same struggle. But it seems like at least there's contrast now and not like all just like tribulations, revelation, struggle. It's like things are happening, things are changing. And it's not even like the most obvious material results. But if you guys might have this in common, if you have a big calling on your life, or it doesn't even have to seem big, like in the world's terms, but if you have like some calling on your life, and whatever that might be, and it's specific to you, and it's something that's like specific to your experiences and your insights and your talents and all that. It's like, it doesn't have to be this. When we think about a big purpose, we think of like, we tend to go to like, oh, fame and like success and everything. You could be a person who works with autistic children in one of those doctor's offices that's behind a grocery store that you just drive past every day, that's like kind of in your suburban neighborhood in a weird area next to like a bunch of other like utility buildings. Like, you could be that and still be living out like this grand purpose because you're doing something that really makes an impact, you know? So when we hear, I got an itch in my ear, a grand purpose, a big purpose, it means something meaningful to you, something that makes an impact on the world. That's not just about you. That's not just about your fulfillment and things that light you up, but it actually passes on some sort of light and love onward and forward. Like, I can almost get choked up, but like those things, like if you have anything that you're aligned with, that you're thinking, oh, I want to be aligned with this now. It's like we're figuring out how to do that, and like becoming empowered and taking on like, I don't know, the sovereignty. If you're already in it, it's like you become awakened within the thing that you're doing, and you realize like the depth and the importance of what you're doing, and you have a reconnection to it. But it's something all new. It's like this cycle is offering us a chance to really like express that thing that is unique to us. And it's not always easy and obvious to figure that out. And sometimes, you know, it seems like people who have a creative skill or many talents, like you'd think it'd be like so easy for those people, but sometimes there's so many different things pulling them in different directions that it's hard to figure out. So sometimes it's easier for the person who like might work with like special needs children in an elementary school. Like they're like, oh, I've only ever wanted to do this. This is my thing. Like, this is what I do, you know? Whereas there might be other people that have like a bunch of different things and they don't know quite where to put all their intention, right? So everybody has, you know, a different journey with it. Ultimately though, we're in this threshold of leaving the old behind and getting a chance to pivot and shift and have a rebirth and a reinvention, an awakening of self. You know, connect with that soul yearning. Where's it leading you to? You know, don't ignore it. Don't push it down. Really give it a chance. Don't just dismiss it, you know? This has to do with like the creative fertility within you. So there's something, you know, there's such a wide spectrum of things that can be creative. It's not always just about like art and design or things like that we associate with arts, right? Creative is having an idea and being able to see it through. And that might be, I have an idea. I want to take a walk. I'm going to go take a walk. I'm going to make a meal tonight. I'm going to make a recipe. And you do that. It's creating things. It's having an idea and intention and being able to bring it into fruition. So I think we're really getting in touch with that urge in this new cycle with the awakening of self. I feel like it's really like amplifying our desire to want to create that life for ourselves, even though it may not like be for everyone like a super clear and obvious choice that they've already made. Like, I want to go in this direction. This is what I want to do. I have this plan. Like, if it's all still very vague to you, then what are, like, Elizabeth Gilbert put this perfectly recently, it's not mine, but she was like, what are you curious about? Like, she's like, not everybody can muster up passion, and sometimes passion gets so big that like it overwhelms people. But she was like, what do you feel curious about? Like, you can be curious every day. You probably aren't going to be passionate every day, but like every day we can muster some curiosity, right? So tap into that. And this is like awakening our personal power. It's like kind of the whole direction that we're going into in this new cycle. It's like tapping into that higher self, sacrificing the will and lower nature and the tendency to want to reach for instant gratification that is the lower self that causes us to spend our days wrong. And we are shifting into that higher self, which is not the most exciting, action-packed self, but it's the self that can make the wise choices. You know, it's the self that can make the good decisions that are in alignment with your values, right? And that send you into a positive direction towards your path, towards love, towards your soul's purpose. Now, we can actually get pretty egotistical and start projecting and assuming a lot about our soul's calling and purpose. But our soul kind of gets up to mischief sometimes. Our soul like leads us into directions that are going to take us into circumstances that are going to prompt and awaken the aspects of our soul that we haven't evolved. So sometimes that can take us in some topsy-turvy directions and some twists and turns, and not always guarantees. You know, sometimes things are a little bit like uncertain and a little bit scary, but you know, we trust that inner voice that's leading us, and we call upon the Creator for guidance and protection and provision. So, all right, let's view these once more. Let's review. We've got cycle. This moment is the shift of cycles between the old timeline and we're jumping onto the new. We have an awakening of self. This is the next level of self. This whole up level has been about jumping to a new timeline and living at a new level. But at the same time, it's like we are receiving another level of our soul that's allowing us to elevate and expand. It's awakening our creativity, our connection to our psychic intuition, and it's enhancing our dream state. You may benefit from water rituals and healing, paying attention to your dreams, but this is definitely enhancing your imagination. Also, this is a good card that indicates like healing issues that involve like sexual guilt or shame or sexual wounds. And this is going to offer an enhancement and surge in our overall magnetism, vitality, energy, enthusiasm, and inspiration, which you could sum up as the curry that one would end up calling personal power. All right, you guys, I hope you have a good rest of your day or morning or night or whenever you're watching this, and I'll see you for the next one. Our Monday night video is our anchor message, which will give us our spiritual lessons for the week. And if you want a little bit of a heads up on that, I do a written blog that is on Instagram with a beautiful photo, or I will put it on our community page here. But if you want to follow me on Instagram, it's Liz_Taylor_Magick. Otherwise, I'll see y'all soon. I have not filmed our full moon workshop yet. Maybe I will do it in the morning. I had a chance to kind of have fun and celebrate with my work coupons, kind kind of for Christmas tonight. So I did not get to film our full moon workshop. And I've also been filming a lot for the 2025 prediction series. So I needed a little bit of a breather. I know y'all understand. You probably worry that I don't do enough fun things as it is. So don't worry. I went out and had some fun. If I can manage it tomorrow, I will try to film our workshop before work, but I also have our Monday post, so we'll see how it goes. I'll see y'all later. Ciao.